Hello, everyone. My name is Brenna Sellers. I am the program director for Farmhands Nourish the Flathead. We present Free the Seeds every single year. This is our 6th annual Free the Seeds fair. This is our first time going virtual. So we're really excited to share our workshop with you today from the comfort of your own home. But we also, because this is the first time we're doing this virtual, I hope you'll be patient with us as we figure it all out. We're really looking forward to hopefully being in person together again next year. Free the Seeds is a community-based project of farmhands and rooted in building a sustainable and resilient future through real seeds, real food, and real skills. While this is a free event, it takes time and money to make it happen. So if you would like to support these efforts, you can donate at freetheseedsmontana.com. Today, our presenter is Lindy Dewey, owner of SpiritWorks Herb Farm, Apothecary, and Farm Stay Retreat Center, located off Highway 93 just south of Whitefish. SpiritWorks farming practices embrace the philosophies of organic farming, crop diversity, companion planting, permaculture concepts, regenerative soil health, sustainability, wildcrafting, learning from research and observation, and learning from nature and each other. Lindy will be sharing with us how to design your own herb garden with some suggestions of what plants to grow. She asks that if you wish to know more, that you follow her farm on social media. You can find SpiritWorks Farm on social media, or subscribe on her website for her email updates. And I'm going to put that in the chat box as well. And I think that we can begin. Lindy, take it away.
Thank you very much, Brenna. And thank you to Andrea, too, whose videos are incorporated into my slideshow. I want to start by saying I am an herb grower, not an herbalist. I do know a little bit about the herbs, the medicinal uses of the herbs that we grow here, but I don't talk about it very much. There are some suggestions further on in the slides, but I've spent my time really learning about the growth requirements of herbs in terms of light, sun, water, soil, companion planting, and all that sort of thing. And I will be introducing that aspect of this. I may be going very fast during part of this presentation. And for those of you who are on a Mac, you can do a Command Shift 4 to do a screen capture. For those of you who are on the Windows platform, I'm told that it's Windows Alt R to do a screen capture. This presentation is a redesign with new information of a presentation done in 2019 at the Free the Seeds conference by Todd Nestel and Megan Neary, who were my farm and apothecary managers for the 2019 season. They did an incredible job with this presentation, and it was very poorly attended. And when I heard that this information was wanted, I thought I would build on what had already been done, because the level of excellence in it is phenomenal. Before we begin, I want to say, I hope this whole process is fun for you. The process of growing herbs in your backyard should be fun, from selecting the seeds with the excitement of the seed catalog arriving and planning what you want to put in your garden, to every aspect of preparing your soil and planting and weeding and harvesting, and then using the herbs that you grow. If it's not fun, please don't do it. Because the element of fun that is involved in doing this is purely magical. You're working with nature, you're working with life force, and if you allow yourself to fully embrace the process, you'll have quite a ride. Let's see here. This is my first go with a webinar, so I'm a little nervous. Really nervous now that it's not giving me my next screen when I hit the down button. Okay, that did it. So SpiritWorks Herb Farm and Retreat Center, as you heard, we're located in Whitefish. We're between Whitefish and Kalispell, behind the Happy Valley storage units. We've been certified organic from the get-go. Our goal is to produce handcrafted medicinal and culinary herbs. We do not use gas equipment in our garden. We produce small batches of herbal products. We focus on educational experiences, and we also have farm stay retreats and we use our retreat center for that. And we've had several wellness retreats that have been a lot of fun. Next. That's me. You get to see me too, but some of the people who will see this presentation afterwards may not. The farm story. I've been learning a lot about marketing, so I wrote a story. The name of the story is Potent Herbs for You. Most people are unaware of how to access the potency of the herbs they are using, the potency of the herbs they are using, and therefore lack confidence in using herbs to address their health concerns. When someone uses low potency inert herbs without desired results, they believe herbs are ineffective and are disappointed that they have wasted their money. When someone uses potent herbs, they experience their health enhancing benefits and are inspired to learn more about how plants support optimal health. We are passionate and committed about producing high potency herbs because our customers deserve the quality needed to build their health. This presentation outline is going to start talking a little bit with intention. I just shared with you our intention here at this farm. I encourage you to create an intention for what you do when you start to grow herbs and make it a very conscious process. There are going to be many design elements in herb garden design presented during this presentation. But before you start with your elements, think about what the purpose is. Are you just wanting culinary herbs to be available out your backyard so you can put the freshest herbs into your culinary dishes? Or do you have a larger space that you are really wanting to learn about a lot of different kinds of herbs and have them available and to maybe even sell them at farmers markets? We'll go into herb selection and the things to consider when incorporating herbs into your design. We'll talk about harvesting herbs and the processing of herbs. So during this presentation, plan your own garden. Embrace the artistry in the process. I think of my land as a canvas and my plants are my medium. And I've had a whole lot of fun doing this. Resources for you. You can visit our website. This keynote presentation will be up on the website once it's available from Free the Seeds, so you can access it there. There also are lists of resources, and we do a lot of events and classes here at the farm. And if you subscribe, as Brenna mentioned at the beginning, to our website, you'll get notices about those. We love to have visitors by appointment. Now that we have COVID, we ask people to make an appointment so I can control the density of traffic here on the farm. And we do ask people to wear a mask. We will be offering herb plants in the spring. So if you're planning to incorporate certain herbs, we will have quite a diverse selection. And again, to acquire those, you would call and make an appointment. The Farm Stay website is noted here. We do have an Instagram page. It's now called SpiritWorks Trilogy because we're integrating the 3 aspects of health immersed in nature that are happening here in the farm, with the farm stay, with the farm, and with the health clinic in which my son, who's a naturopathic physician and clinical herbalist, and myself as a healing arts practitioner are practicing. We're in the process of evaluating our new packaging. So those of you who have access to this presentation, if you enter baggy discount when you check out, you'll get 10% off of your purchase. And Chelsea Publishing just notified me today that they have 35% off of all their gardening and farming books this month. And the books they have available are first class. I have most of them. So why grow herbs? It's trendy. It's getting even trendier. And most of the herbalists who are teaching are really encouraging people to buy from small local herb farms, and because of the potency and quality of the product. This is a great project for beginning gardeners because herbs are easy to grow and they take a minimal effort to get started. It's convenient, saves time and money, adds flavor to your dishes. You can control the quality of the herbs that you use. It has fun and relieves stress. There's research that's been done that actually quantifies people's experience when they are getting their hands in soil. It helps relieve depression, and people with PTSD are having very positive experiences as they literally get in the dirt and spend time in nature that way. Herbs are healthy for your body. It's educational. Once you get into working with herbs, it is kind of a self igniting process. Just wanting to know more. You get a bug bite and you kind of look around and go, wow, there ought to be a plant here that can help me with this. And if you know what plantain looks like, you can pick it up and chew it up a little bit and then put it on the bug bite and it doesn't sting anymore. It's medicine in your backyard with curb appeal. If you start growing herbs in your backyard and start playing around with some of these design elements, you will have a big wow factor with the people who can see what you're doing. Oftentimes, when you start to grow herbs, you'll find you have a lot more than you can use yourself, and it's really fun to share the wealth with friends, family, and neighbors. And the other thing that I'm finding really fun is that I can explore exotic varieties. I've been having a lot of fun doing this with both vegetables and herbs. And seed companies like Baker Creek, and there are others, and they're not coming to my mind right now, have the heirloom seed companies have these exotic varieties. Okay. Garden design. So you'll actually see a picture of our Trisculene earlier on in this, but this is a better picture to look at for the beginning. When I first decided to start to expand my little garden into a farm, my son, Sam Madeira, who's the naturopathic physician, said, "Mom, please grow herbs. They're desperately needed." And he's also a clinical herbalist. I knew nothing about herbs at the time, but I did have this concept of, a mandala, that there ought to be some way of integrating the herbs into the landscape that had packed a punch to it. At the time when I was expanding, a very intelligent person said to me, "Good grief, Lindy, what are you doing?" And I was pretty much knee deep into the process that I'm in here at that time. And I had to step back and really take stock of it. He said, it's very important, and this is the whole business around intention. He said it's very important to have some key concepts that are guiding all your decision making. And when I looked at what was happening here, I, at that time, was having usually 5 to 7 interns at a time on the farm, and everybody was learning about farming and learning about herbs. And we were farming, and we were also integrating it with what we could, in any way we could, with how the herbs would build our health. So our design of the Trisculene integrates those 3 elements: learning, farming, and building health, in using the Celtic spiral of life, the Trisculene that you see here. It is oriented on the land, honoring the 4 directions of the native peoples of the Flathead Valley. And there is a whole longer story that I don't go into in this presentation, but the herbs in the east are resonant with learning. The herbs in the south are resonant with farming, and the herbs in the northwest are resonant with the quality of building health. So when you take those intentions and you want to put it on the land, you've identified your goal and your purpose. Then you need to look at your site, and the size, the shape, the light, the availability of water, the materials that are available, either in your budget or preferably are readily found for nothing on Craigslist, or at some of the places like, well, I'm on the way to the dump, so everybody brought me stuff for years. I had to just figure out something to do with the stuff that they brought me. Accessibility. This is where the concepts of permaculture become very important. You don't want to put your least, like I have my raspberries far out because they have a short harvest season, and I'm only going there for, we're only going there for about 3.5 weeks of the season. However, lettuce, something that's used every day, you want to have close in because you want it readily available. So as you get into studying permaculture, those concepts of zones and accessibility are very important. Wildness. This is where agroforestry comes in terms of and some of the permaculture concepts that are embraced in agroforestry. Are you on the edge of something, whether it be a meadow, a forest, a lake, and how can you design elements that create a very natural feeling transition, as opposed to there's my garden and here's nature. Here's nature in the wild. Can you do a blending with the edge? Boundaries is important to in this area to have some containment for deer, and if you have slope, you'll want to look at whether or not you're going to bring in elements of terracing and all the different ways in which terracing can happen. And there are a lot of resources online and in permaculture resources to explore that. Drift. This is very important, and I'm very fortunate. Many farms are next to other farms, and as a result, the organic farmer who's trying hard to farm organically is really his agricultural practices are compromised by the neighbor who's using Roundup, especially if their organic farm is downwind of the other one. I've been very fortunate here. I'm surrounded in trees. I cut trees down to create the space that I'm farming on, so it had never had any chemicals. And the Department of Agriculture came here and did a spot check audit on my soil and my biomass, and we tested negative for over 263 chemicals that are typically used in agriculture, which is, so you'll want to pay attention to that in terms of where your contaminant streams are coming from, whether it's coming in through your compost or whether it's coming in the air. Those are important concepts. And then maintenance. You want to think about, how much time do I want this garden to consume every bit of me, or do I want it to be something that I can, spend 4 hours a week at? It should be deliberate in identifying how much you're willing to give to this project. I've already talked about being creative and using materials that you have. I'm fortunate, I have a lot of rocks. I would love to minimize this window. I don't know if I can. I can't. Rocks, lumber, looking at the space that you have available, and we already talked about incorporating intention in your design. Up in the upper left-hand corner of this is an old wagon wheel. A lot of people do all of their herb gardening in pots, and you can put a number of different herbs in one pot, or you can have a pot per herb. Pots are nice because you can move them when the weather shifts, and that becomes increasingly important in this part of the world because we have late frosts and midsummer hailstorms and all kinds of things like that. So it's often a wise choice, and especially when starting out, it's a way of starting out without overwhelming yourself right out the gate. And it also, if you have something like mint and you put it in a pot in the ground in the garden, it won't invade everything that is next to it. Tower gardens are very popular. Most of them are hydroponics, some are not. A typical strawberry pot, if you got a large clay strawberry pot, you could put an herb in each little section of that and have a lot of diversity in a small area, and you take advantage of the space going up, which if you don't think you have a lot of space, if you start to think about space going up, you will realize you have more than you thought you did. There are also, you can Google wall gardens and see how people have done some very interesting things with gutters and other materials to literally create a garden on a wall. Spiral gardens, I love these. The one on the lower right climbs up on itself. It's maybe it can be as big as 4 feet across, and you can still easily reach to the center. To have anything wider than 4 feet makes it difficult to access the center. The one in the upper right, it is conducive to meditative walks, and it actually looks like there are a bunch of people in the upper right-hand corner. These are easy to maintain, they're compact, they're aesthetically pleasing, they're easy to construct, and it also uses the vertical space option. Labyrinth Gardens, this one's up in Michigan. It's a big wow. These people really put the math to it. And if you are local here, Dancing Spirit has done an incredible job of laying out a garden that has a lot of raised beds and is it's not as complex as this. I'm sure they're glad of that. Because of doing something like this, you have to really have a very elaborate planting plan where you might have something that is fading out if you're incorporating food into the design, or some of the annual plants that you need to have an idea of how to know what's coming next and to fill in that space. These are ideal. These are great for overachievers, people who just want to go for it. They're inviting to walk through, and they are totally big wow with their captivating elements. Mandala Gardens. This was our mandala at the very beginning. You saw a later picture earlier in the design. For me, this is sacred space. I don't have people walking through the mandala unless they're working in it. It is something that pictures from a drone or from Google Earth, it is a big wow. It holds the energetics and the intention of the land and everything that we do here. Keyhole gardens. I love this concept. You can have these be quite big across. I would recommend that it not be more than 8 feet. As you walk into the keyhole, you can reach what is inaccessible from the outside. This particular keyhole representation incorporates having a composting basket in the center where you can bring your table scraps out every day and put them in, and you can throw some worms in there, and the composting elements, as you water it, will leach out into the soil. In the picture on the right, you'll see how they have put some logs, which as they decay, give off heat and also help to retain water. And then there's cardboard and newspaper and compost and then some soil on the top. So that's a very creative way of doing things. It also is good for somebody who is like me, older and doesn't like to bend over all the time. You can have your garden at waist height. The design on the right also incorporates a framework over the top of it so that you can protect your early plants from the frost and late plants from the frost and midsummer plants from the hailstorms. I recently connected with the guy who has designed these garden socks. These are amazing, and we are very lucky here in the Flathead to have a company called Dirt Rich Compost. What he's created is a process where you can take these garden socks, you fill them full of just compost, and then you can lay them out in different ways. You'll see the one on the right incorporates a drip irrigation system, and is a nice way to walk around. One of the biggest benefits of this is there's no weeding, because the weeds don't get into the socks. They just kind of fall off of it. Once your plants get big, you don't see the garden socks. And you can put them right on a patio, as you see on the lower corner, lower left-hand corner. In the upper left-hand corner, you can make beds that are 4x4. These socks are roughly 2 feet long when they are filled. And it's a very easy process. If you go to the website, there's a ton of information there. It's it's become my most recent favorite rabbit hole to go down. This is easy, it's quick, you don't have to do a whole lot. If you have a space in your backyard, you can put down a whole bunch of cardboard, put these socks on top, get some wood chips for your paths, and boom, bingo, you've got it ready to go. Incorporating herbs into your garden design. We talked about assessing your location. First, get to know your perennials that you're choosing to use. How much space will they take up when they're mature? How high will they be? You don't want to plant something like those dahlias in the front and then not be able to see the verbena that's in the dahlias that are there in the back. If you had them in the front, you couldn't see the verbena that's in the front. So you want to kind of pay attention to what needs to be in the back is what I'm trying to say. The other thing is, once you get your perennials in and you know whether or not when they're mature, they're going to be 1 foot or 3 feet wide, you can plant your annuals. And if you know that it's going to take 3 years for it to get 3 feet wide, you can plant a lot of annuals around that perennial the first year, a little bit less the second year, and maybe none the third year. Companion planting. There, you can pretty much Google anything these days. I love that. I do have a lot of companion planting books, and it's something I've enjoyed for years. But you want to, if you just Google companion planting and then you put in tomatoes, you'll learn that you want to put basil next to your tomato plants, and maybe some nasturtiums. Growing conditions. Do things require light or shade, moist or dry? That will help you a lot in terms of what you cluster together. You want to put all your moist, wet, feeded plants together, and the ones that you're letting go dry in another area, so it makes your watering easy. What kind of water quality do you have? How accessible is it? We're fortunate here. We have a well. Right now it produces all the water we need. I don't know if that will continue as the homeowners association next to us drains the water out of our aquifer. They're at a much deeper aquifer, so it's possible that we could dry up. What kind of water systems? SpiritWorks has a catalog that will show you a lot of drip irrigation systems. Any home and garden store will introduce you to a myriad of different kinds of sprinkling systems that you might use. One of the things you might want to know is that a plant like bergamot, if the leaves stay wet a lot, it will get a dusty mildew on it and not be so pretty. So if you're watering its feet, you'll have a vibrant looking plant throughout the season. Soil quality, soil tests. Somebody else is going into that during this Free the Seeds symposium. But doing soil tests and knowing the history of your soil is very important. It will save you a lot of heartache when you do all the hard work of your garden. Encourage pollinators. Patty Armbruster is doing presentations. She will talk about this. Listen to her. She's just a wealth of information. I was very happy with the results I got last year when I introduced a lot of sweet alyssum and calendula and nasturtiums into my high tunnel. I had no problems because they were encouraging the predatory insects that would eat things that would create problems like whitefly. And if you encourage the pollinators, you'll enjoy seeing your bees happy, or your neighbor's bees. You'll bring bees into your garden. We need to feed the bees. I'm not sure if somebody's doing a presentation on bees this year, but we have 3 hives. It's hard. Sometimes they don't make it through the winter, and that's really sad. We just get more. I love the bees. They create a very special experience in the garden where it's a low level of buzz. It's like a symphony. This is what our high tunnel looked like 2 summers ago, and now I'm going to go into the whole design process. On the lower right, you see Todd. Todd and I sat down at the table on the left in February of 2019 and said, we got to do something with this high tunnel. He's a landscape designer. He's worked at this farm for many seasons. Very talented guy. And we started playing around. Initially, we had 2 paths intertwining through the tunnel, and Todd says, no, there needs to be 3. And he's right. We're all about the principle of 3 here on this farm. At the far end, at the top of the design, you see a Trisculene. It is done with stone. I actually, today as I'm speaking, Patrick Wolford is doing some restorative work on that and taking it to another whole level. I'll talk more about that aspect in a minute. But you'll see that the braiding of these 3 paths created these huge beds, and you couldn't reach into the center of them if you wanted to. So we introduced the keyhole concept, so you could move into the center of the garden. At the bottom, we have planted some trees. We have a lemon tree that goes in and out every year, and we have an apple tree and an apricot tree at that end of and those will, as they get bigger, they'll provide a microclimate with a shaded area in the high tunnel. We'll have really 3 zones, microclimates in this tunnel. In the center, a moist zone at the far end to the south, where all the stones are that absorb the heat during the day and release it at night, a drier area. And so we've got shady, wet, and dry. Alrighty. Okay, using recycled materials. This is how our beds have been constructed. I was given a lot of roofing materials from a friend of mine who does standing seam roofs and metal roofs and all kinds of roofs. So we cut this recycled material into different lengths for the different sized beds. Rebar goes, the rebar is 1/3 of it is into the ground. It is anchored at the top with a little clasp to a piece of wood that's on the other side. And that's how, so we've used a lot of recycled materials here. The top of the beds is pieces of wood that are taken from pallets that we deconstructed. This is what the Trisculene at the south end of the high tunnel looks like. We had a problem with our rock work, which is why Patrick's come in, and this is getting a huge overhaul, and I can't wait to see what it looks like when he's done. Sorry, I didn't click on this sooner. Andrea Getz did these videos. I just love them. And so these are the stones that are that hold the temperature during the day. Those are called heat sinks, and that's the concept of client modification. You can do that in your backyard without any of this, just by using rocks where you want to have the heat released at night in your garden. And also you can modify the climate by taking advantage of the shade of a tree. Okay, this shows how keyholes, I can reach all the way into here. And from here, I can reach into there. I walk into here and I can get all the way into here. So it really makes a huge difference in terms of the accessibility of the bed. And I love the fact that Todd spent 3 months being a gopher in this high tunnel, making it possible to build these beds up so that as I move from my 7th to 8th generation, I don't have to bend over. I can let other people do the outside work that requires the bending. Let's see. This, I wanted you to know what it looks like when it's vibrant in there. It's just absolutely amazing and jaw-dropping. Wow. So agroforestry brings in some elements that I'm sure most of you are aware of the fungal network underneath the soil in the forest. And if you haven't, you can start to read about how trees communicate with each other. It's fascinating. And one tree, when it dies, there's a whole process of how it releases its nutrients into that fungal network to make it bioavailable to the other trees in the forest and also to the other plants. It's in the forest that many of us do our wildcrafting. It's very important to learn everything you can about sustainable wildcrafting. Taking more than 20% is going to compromise the longevity. You want to know the area. You want to know if other people are harvesting the area. If I go in and harvest 20% today and Brenna goes and takes 20% tomorrow and 5 more people do that, within the year or a couple of years, there won't be any available. And this is a problem with many of our endangered species that responsible herbalists are looking for alternative species to use for the ones that like ginseng and some others that are so endangered. There is a whole organization around endangered plant species, and you can Google that and find that information pretty quickly. Some of you local may know Michael Pilarski, who has a website called Friends of the Trees. Michael has been a wildcrafter for 35 or 40 years. He's a permaculture teacher, and he has a beautiful way of building agroforestry environments, and where he swaps out things as the climate and the ecosystem changes as things become more mature. That's a really fun rabbit hole to go down, and but it's I'm just going to touch on it. Herbs to grow. There, you want to ask what do you want to use herbs for anyways? Are you using them for household uses, for cleaning, cosmetics, culinary wellness, or first aid? Focus on what you want the herbs to do for you, and then you can choose which varieties to plant, and you be clear about your purpose and intent. So herbs for household uses. We grow over 11 kinds of lavender here, but one of them, Adam lavender, which is different from all the other varieties, is considered industrial grade lavender for household cleaning products. The others people would use in more, for a potpourri, or to put it in a tea, or to use in a soap or a salve, those sorts of things. Are you wanting to make toothpaste or bug spray? Tansy is something nice for bug spray. And somebody recently told me that chamomile can be used for bug spray, and I'm looking into that. Do you want to put them in candles? Are you using them for decoration? Are you wanting them to have an energetic effect on your environment? So these are just a few herbs to consider. There's a much longer list, but if you know what your use is, you can Google, I hate to say this, but you can Google all of this stuff. You know, what herbs would I want to put in my toothpaste? What herbs would I use for sacred space? White sage, holy basil. Herbs for cosmetics. People make salves, lotion, chapstick, lipstick, face wash, herbal baths, shampoo and conditioner, foot soaks, facial steams, age spot treatment. Herbs to consider are also listed here. And I hope you are getting screen captures on this, or you can come back to it. In the upper right, for those who don't know, that's calendula. Calendula comes in a lot of different colors and in petal density. The orange calendula has the most potent therapeutic constituents in it. We have selected our seed for the last 5 or 6 years for the calendula with the most potent therapeutic qualities. Herbs for culinary uses. You're looking at thyme in the upper right. Be creative. We grow something here called Zuta lavana. It's actually a Turkish oregano. This is where you can really expand your taste palette by looking at growing herbs in your backyard that you can't readily grow in your get in the store. I learned about 2 years ago, somebody told me that in England they make elderflower jelly, and it's a very popular jelly in England. We do make small batches of medicinal jams and jellies, and it's a fun process. Putting them in teas, infused oils, herbal vinegars, oxymels, that's when you put herbs and honey, herbal syrups. Elderberry is a popular herb for boosting immunity and making a syrup, bringing in ginger, cinnamon, clove, helps make it, and I think I said cinnamon, maybe I didn't, but it makes it very tasty, and it's also takes advantage of the qualities of those other herbs to boost the efficacy of the elderberry. Herbal butters, these are fun. Pesto butter is probably the most common, but I encourage people to expand their palate with that.
Lindy, we've got a question in the Q&A. Rachel has asked, how do you tell which herbs have the highest medicinal potency? Can you speak to that?
I'm going to talk about that when I get to harvesting.
Okay, perfect.
If it's, Rachel, if it's not answered in that part of the presentation, please remind me. Herbs for first aid. Well, we talked about plantain for a bug bite. You can make a quick poultice that way. Teas, antiseptics, salves, tinctures, elixirs, throat gargle. CJ of Backslope Brewing here in Columbia Falls buys some of our herbs to make his brews, and I put that in the elixir category. They've been very popular. Herbs to consider are listed there. Harvesting medicinal plants. This addresses your question, Rachel, around the potency of the herb. The qualities, the factors that you'll want to look at are, first of all, what does the plant look like? Have the leaves already gone brown and you're wanting to get their leaves? Have the flowers already started to go to seed and you want to use the flowers? Timing is everything. So it's the timing and the life cycle of the plant, but also the timing of the harvest. Your aerial plants, you want to harvest after the dew has evaporated, but before the plant starts to show signs of wilt at the end of the day, you know, as it gets into the heat of the afternoon. So our mints will harvest between 11 and 2. The time of the season, with stinging nettle, we harvest it continuously throughout the season, but if we aren't on top of it and let it go too far, it starts to develop seed heads. And when it has the seed heads in it, the silica concentrates in the plant, and that's not good for somebody who has a heart issue. So you need to pay attention to what all the therapeutic constituents are and what their effects are. And as you get to know the plants and read about them, you'll learn these things. Where in the life cycle of the plant is it? Plants that, this is a plant of some horseradish, but horseradish can be harvested when the leaves are still on it, and the leaves are used for one thing and the roots are used for another. We use the leaves in our wildfire smoke blend to help with some of the lung issues of wildfires around here. But most plants where you're harvesting for the roots, you want to wait until the top of the plant has completely died down and the top of the plant has released all its goodness into the roots. So the roots will have maximum potency. Some plants like Ella Campaign, you want to try to get the roots in the 2nd year. Other like Echinacea, you want to look to the 4th year. Valerian, you can take them the 1st year, but they're bigger the 2nd year. And so it's all that information is readily available online. Knowing what parts of the plant you're going to be using is key to making the determination of when to harvest it, because the rules are pretty standard across. You know, if it's flower, you want to get it before it goes to seed. If it's a seed, you got to wait until it's a seed. And if it's aerial, it's usually midday, and the roots in the fall. Those are pretty general guidelines for that. And did that answer Rachel's question? Did she give you a nod, Brenna?
If it didn't answer her question, she can write something more in the question box.
Okay, great.
All right.
Okay, processing herbs. So we talked about what you're selecting. If it's air, this is a very casual drying process of aerial aspects of plants. You can just tie them with a knot and hang them upside down. There's problems with this. Those are exposed to the sunlight, and that's going to degrade the quality of the herb. They're also exposed to any dust that might be in the air. So putting them in a black paper bag, a brown paper bag would have been an improvement in this process of these herbs here. So first, we're going to select clean plant material. Above, if lower down the leaves are browning, we're going to take the stuff where the leaves are looking vital. That's the grading process. If you're going to hang them, put them in a well-ventilated, dark, dry space. If you're going to use a dehydrator, you'll want to put it at 95 to 100 degrees for 24 to 72 hours. You want to make sure that you're down to about 10% moisture content, or your herbs will mold when you put them in storage. Storing them in glass is recommended. It's preferred over anything else, in an airtight jar. Some herbs you can store in brown paper bags. That's okay too. I think that's all I want to say about storage. I want to say more about dehydrator. My first year, I was storing, I was dehydrating herbs in racks in my garage. The problems I had with that were I couldn't control the temperature, and I couldn't control the amount of dust that was getting on the herb. So we didn't sell anything the first year. We were just learning how to grow it anyways. These are some elderflowers. What we have done is we've taken a cargo van, we gutted it, insulated it, and put 2 high velocity hurricane exhaust fans. That's the type of fan that you would use in a greenhouse on one end, and 2 very small 4-inch duck fans at the other end of the dehydrator. The intake fans are down low, the exhaust fans are up high, and then there's 3 tower fans in the middle, and some heaters that help boost the heat up to 95 degrees. Dehydration happens quicker when there's, it's more important to have ventilation than it is to have heat, but the heat helps it happen faster. Some people put their herbs in a ventilated area out of the sun. And I would just say, try to control airborne contaminants. These are the names of some commercial dehydrators. I've worked with all of them. The Excalibur is a just top quality. They're all top quality. The Cabela has 24 trays in it, so if you want to get a lot of herbs for a home operation done in a short period of time, you can also dehydrate fruits and vegetables, because all of these will go up to 140 degrees at least. The one thing I would say about a commercial dehydrator, if you know that that's the route you want to go, get it now. If you wait until harvest time, you'll find that they're not available. It's like when there's a disaster, you can't find a, what are those things called? A generator. And there's lots of good ideas on the internet if you decide you want to build your own, and you can do that for a variety of price tags. I want to say something about weeds. Over here on the right, we're looking from left to right, we're looking at mullein, St. John's wort, in the bottom, yarrow and dandelion. Many of people consider these problematic. Some of them are even listed as noxious weeds to be fought, eradicated. But they have major medicinal properties, and I had to go through a process to get approval to allow them to be on my land. We use the St. John's wort oil, both in tinctures and And I mean, the St. John's wort in tinctures, and we also use it in salves. Yarrow has many uses. If you're bleeding profusely, it's called, it's named after Achilles. It was used in battle a lot for gunshot and knife wounds and things like that. It will stop bleeding pretty quickly. And dandelion's a favorite. So when you think it's a weed, consider its benefits, and whether or not you'll want to use mullein for creating an ear oil for your child's ear infections. The other thing is that the weeds also tell us a lot about the soil, and I imagine that Patty might be addressing this in one of her presentations. But if the weeds will help to make things bioavailable to the life that exists in the soil, the microbes, the mycorrhizae, the fungi, the everything that's in the soil. And other people will go into that, but the weeds also attract pollinators. Spotted knapweed is considered a major problem in this area, and yet it is a favorite bee food. So I wait until after the flowers are starting to go to seed to go around and clip my spotted knapweed back. And I would encourage you to avoid herbicides. If you're growing herbs for medicine or for culinary uses, you do not want to introduce it into your food chain. Many of the herbicides have central nervous system, I guess I'd say deleterious effects on the central nervous system. You just don't want it, not if you want to build your health. I've included this, actually Todd and Megan included this in the presentation for people to refer back to. If you can do a screenshot, do it, grab it now, otherwise you can grab it later. These are a number of different herbs and the uses that you might have for them, what the mental picture of them might be, and the parts of the plants that are usually used. These pages, the pages from Todd and Megan's presentation are still up on my SpiritWorksHerbs.com website under the tab that says farm. And if you, I don't know where it is in the scroll down of the tab underneath that tab, but it's there. And here's the rest of it. Additional references. Jeff and Melanie Carpenter's book, The Medicinal Herb Farmer, is becoming a just must-have reference. It hits every aspect of growing your own herbs and processing them. It's a Bible. Rico Check, the founder of Strictly Medicinal Herbs, which is strictlymedicinal.com, which sells medicinal herbs. Seed, a great source of seed, has written a book on growing your own pharmacy. Rosemary Gladstar has numerous books out, brilliant, well-acknowledged, highly renowned herbalist, has not just uses of herbs, but a lot of great recipes. Herbal medicine from the heart. If you're starting to move into, being more herbalist oriented, that is a very good reference. Rosalie de la Forêt, her Alchemy of Herbs, and she also has another book out, and a site called Learning Herbs. She has just done a phenomenal job of making information on herbs accessible. She's easily Googled. Garden design, Jessie Bloom has a nice book on creating sanctuary. Online resources, Seven Song is a long-standing, well-renowned herbalist, and the learningherbs.com websites there also. For topics to really make sure you're exploring are companion planting and permaculture. It's not there, but and the energetics of a mandala garden agroforestry. There are a lot of rabbit holes to go down here. And if you follow our website, you will get announcements of what we're doing. This was a slide that was at the beginning. We didn't catch everything first time around. I'll just pause so you can make a note.
Lindy, since we're reaching the end, we've got a question from Shirley. She's wondering how she can do a clipping in order to start a new lavender plant. Do you have an insight?
Yeah, that's a great idea. Lavender, most people go and buy the plants when you don't need to do that. If you have a live plant, you just, you'll notice on the stem of any of those lavender fawns that there's a woody area, and then it transitions to a kind of soft area in the stem. You harvest that tip, maybe 2 inches of it, dip it in root cutting powder and stick it in the ground. You can stick it in the ground this time of year. Whoopsie daisy, what had happened there? I guess it's done, but that's good. We're done.
Good.
Are there other questions? I don't know if there.
We've got a question from Corinne. She's asking if you can explain the van build out again for drying herbs.
Okay, I shopped around till I found an inexpensive cargo van, the utility van, and we gutted it, insulated it, and then put the type of material that you would line a shower with or a bathtub, around the bathtub to protect the walls. We put that on the commercial kitchens use this material. I don't know what it's called, if it's a polycarb or what. We put that on the walls, and let me see if I can get back to that slide. And then we used a closet. Oh. Come on. We use closet stuff for here we go. For the shelving here. There are some things that go vertically, and then these pieces hold up the shelf, and that's the shelving material. That was chosen because it allows for air circulation. These trays, we built them a size that is easy to handle. On the bottom of them, they have 1/4 inch stainless steel wire mesh that allows air to circulate. Something like the elderflower here will put down a clean piece of sheeting, because as it dries, you knock it a little bit and it will go right through the wire mesh. And you can see that there's a strip on the bottom here to protect your hands from getting cut from that wire mesh. Did that answer your question? I think the high velocity hurricane fans we got from Box of Rain in Kalispell. The 4-inch intake fans we got from Home Depot. They're just, it's a 4-inch duck fan that you put in a piece of, we put some duck material that was about 6 inches long, so it would go through the outside of the van, and then put a fan in there to suck the air in. It also has a screen on it to filter out any air contamination, airborne contamination.
We've got a question from Carrie asking if you could show an image of the composting keyhole garden again.
I'd be happy to.
And then a question from Rachel asking if there are any other herbs that you like to start from cuttings, like lavender, like you said you do with lavender.
Do rosemary. We start most things from seed. I also get some plugs from a company in Canada. That's all I have in my head.
Okay. And then a question from Danny. Do you have any recommendations of what herbs to grow in an area with low light?
Ooh, yeah, that's a good question. Low light. I have a very mature mind that doesn't often pull stuff up readily like that. Google herbs for shade. I'm sorry.
That's okay. And I'm going to write here that Danny can sign up for, anyone can sign up for your email list, and that you've got some information that goes out that way, right?
Yeah, I try not, I'm very careful not to overwhelm people with stuff that's generated from the email list attached to my website. However, I have some very enthusiastic people who are managing my social media, and if you follow me, you'll get tons. They're really having fun. It's very exciting to watch what they're doing.
Excellent. All right, I'm going to put out a last call for questions. We've only got 10 minutes before this is over. If anyone has any remaining questions, please type them in the Q&A. And if we don't get a question in the next minute or so, Lindy, I think we'll be able to end a little early.
Brenna, my gratitude to both you and Andrea for the support to create this presentation and help it come off smoothly. Thank you.
Oh, we've got a question from Crystal about, is there a better time to visit your farm?
I encourage people to try to do it, to try to make an appointment on Wednesdays if they can, so that all the traffic on the farm is only happening on one day, so that I can put my attentions elsewhere the rest of the week. But if you can't make a Wednesday time between 2 and 7, call and schedule something when you can. I'm pretty accommodating, and the people I have working with me this year have been working with me for more than a season, so they're also very capable of giving a good tour.
Excellent. Someone, Georgia, would like to see the second slide on the parts of herbs to use.
I think it was this one, was it? Is that the one she means? Can she give you a nod? Is that what you wanted to look at?
I can't see her, but if she, oh, number 34.
Oh, I get it. Yeah.
And do you think you could make it large again, Lindy, with your play? And then we've got a question, are there particular herbs that you can only grow in your high tunnel?
There are particular herbs that I prefer to grow in the high tunnel. I'm currently trying to see whether or not I can winter over rosemary by growing it in the high tunnel, because I can't growing it outside here. I've tried. Ashwagandha, I got a grant for the high tunnel so that I could grow ashwagandha here. It requires 200 days of growing, and that's a trick to get in this climate. I've had fun playing with certain herbs that are zone 7 through 11, putting them in the high tunnel. I tried passion flower last year. It never flowered. So, you know, we are at our farm, we're zone 4, 5. So, and if you're not familiar with growing zones, just Google growing zones and it will show you a map of what's likely in this area. However, it will show whitefish as being in one growing zone, and I'm in a very different zone here at my farm than the people are at Two Bear or down in Lower Valley. And a homeowner might be who lives up on the mountain. And you know, Todd came out here one year, 3 weeks after most of his garden was shut down, and I was still going strong. Part of that is because I'm growing on a hill and cold sinks. And so the cold was just sinking nicely off of my farm, and things managed to do well when other flat farmers were finding that either they had to have agribon over stuff, or they were done for the season.
We've got some requests for the slide of herbs for first aid. And then after that, slide 33. So maybe we'll give them a moment.
And Georgia, if you're still there, I think we still didn't quite get the slide that you were looking for. So if you have any more information for us to try to get the right slide, please type that in.
The nice thing about these herbs for first aid, they all have very different growth requirements. Yarrow likes it dry. Hops needs to climb up something. Echinacea tall, taller than Calendula. Mullein is like a sentinel in the garden and often will stand alone. And the mint will spread if you're not careful. And arnica wants to be in the woods and grow wild. Okay, I'm gonna go to the other one. I think that was 33, am I correct? I can't see what number my slide is here.
I think so. It came from an anonymous.
Okay.
And one question that was in here that you answered a bit when you talked about in the high tunnel, but wintering over rosemary there was a question, what is the best way to winter over rosemary? Has your best luck been in the high tunnel?
So one of the things I learned last winter was not to prune it back too far. I pruned it back into the woody part of the stems, and I lost it all. This winter, I only pruned it back, and I left some of the new growth part of the stems that was not woody, and then I mulched all around it with leaves. And the jury's still out on whether or not my rosemary's making it. Ask me in a month.
All right.
There was another slide somebody wanted. What was it?
The use for herbs, the slide that is at the first part of the alphabet. This one, I think.
Okay.
And then one more question. Any suggestions on good deer or animal resistant herbs for the Flathead Valley that will also winter over?
Your sages. Salvia alpina the white sage does not winter over here. The white sage that's actually in Artemisia will. But deer do not like sage. And I have some stuff planted outside of my garden that I know they do like, and I just have it surrounded by sage, and so far they've left it alone. Sage is great for sore throats. It won't take away the flu, but it sure will calm that sore throat. If you add a little honey and ginger, you've got something that will help you feel better while you're getting better. It doesn't get you better, but it helps you feel better. There's a difference.
And then will you be selling herb starts? And if so, when will they be available for sale?
He should be available in May and June. I would say mid-May to mid-June. And I will put something both out through social media and on my website email list when they're available. We'll have a lot of diversity this year.
Excellent. Well, I think that that's the end of all the questions. I would like to thank Lindy so much for hosting this presentation and for all of the attendees for coming. At one point, we had 77 attendees, Lindy, so a
Wow.
big turnout.
Glad I couldn't see everybody. I would have been petrified.
Yeah. Just a reminder for everyone who is still on that Free the Seeds is only possible with everyone's support. So if you have the means to donate, freetheseedsmontana.com, you're able to donate online. Thank you, everyone. This was so great.